To start this problem, everywhere I see a variable, I'm going to put a parenthesis. So instead of k, I put a parenthesis. Minus 2 instead of k, instead of n, and instead of n. Now, k represents -1, so -1 is there, -1 is there. N represents -5, so I have a -5 there and a -5 there. Order of operations. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Let's start with our parentheses. This is the only parentheses we have to deal with right now because when I'm dealing with parentheses, if there's one number, we leave it alone. So inside this parentheses right here, I have -2 times 1, which is -2, and -9 times -5 is a positive 45. When I add those together, I get 43. I'm going to bring everything else down. I'm going to bring down this negative. I have a -1 squared. And I'm going to go ahead and multiply this out here to -20. Parentheses are done. Exponents. My exponent is right there. So what I'm doing is I'm taking -1 times -1 and a negative times a negative. This piece right here is a +1. Bring everything else down. Now if you have a graphing calculator, put it exactly what it looks like right there straight into your graphing calculator and press enter. So from here we can multiply and divide, add and subtract in any order. So I'm going to put those together and get -44 minus 20. Same signs we add and keep. And then when I add those together, my final answer is -64. Again, I highly recommend a calculator for every single piece. The next problem here, what I'm looking at right now is I have a 1 here. Well, if I want them to be the same denominator, then these all need to be a 2. Well, I can't just multiply the bottom without multiplying the top. So when I simplify this down, I have 12x to the third over 2. Plus 2 times 4 is 8x over 2. And notice 8 divided by 2 gives you that original 4. Plus x to the third over 2 minus 4 times 2, which is 8x over 2. Now I have like denominators, and that's exactly what I want. Let's start with the x to the thirds. That doesn't have a number, so I'm going to give it 1. When I'm adding, I just add the numbers in the front, so 12 plus 1 is 13. And the label is x to the 3, and the common denominator is 2. Then I look at these pieces right here. Plus 8 minus 8 is 0, so those cancel, and here's my final solution. Next problem. Here's what I like to do. I like to draw a line. I'm going to get my x's over here on the left and my numbers over here on the right. So this first term is an x. I'm going to leave it. This is not, so I'm going to do the opposite, and I'm going to add 8 to both sides. That cancels, and I have 6x equals 30x plus 16. Well, I need to get this over here, so I'm going to do the opposite. So I'm going to subtract 30x, subtract 30x. That will cancel, and I have 16 on the right, and I have -24x on the left. Next up, to get x by itself, I'm going to have to divide by what's attached. I'm going to divide by -24. And x equals -16 over 24. I highly recommend, if you have a graphing calculator, put it in there. -16 divided by 24, press enter, you'll get a decimal. On the left-hand side, there's a button that says math. If you press math, choose option number 1 that says fraction, and then press enter, and enter one more time, it will turn it into its reduced form. If not, here's what I do. I ask myself, are they even? If so, I divide them by 2. Well, that will give me -8 over 12. Are those two numbers still even? They sure are. So I'm going to divide by 2 again. That's 4 over 6. Are those two numbers still even? They are. So I'm going to divide 2 into it one more time, so I get negative 2 over 3, and there's my final answer. This is the most reduced form. Any one of these are still a correct answer. But when it says to simplify, you want to simplify it down. This problem's a little bit difficult, so I'm going to walk you through it. It says my goal is to solve for r, but the problem is I have multiple r's. So I'm going to distribute that capital T through first. So I have TR plus TS equals RS. Now my goal is to get all the r's on the same side. So I have to move this one over here. So I'm going to subtract TR and I'm going to subtract TR. So I'm left with a TS on the left and an RS minus a TR on the right. Well, now that all of my r's are on the same side, I'm going to factor it out. So if I factor out an r, which means I'm dividing out an r in each term, I'm left with an s minus a capital T. So we're getting a lot closer here. Next step, if I want to get r by itself, this is saying r times a quantity, I'm going to divide by that quantity. So let's divide by the parentheses st, divide by the parentheses st. Those cancel and I'm left with r equals ts over s minus t. And there's your final answer.